Hey, this is David Plotz, CEO of CityCast. I have a favor to ask before we get to today's conversation. We're doing our annual listener survey, and it would really help us out if you took it. And even if you took it last year, we'd be grateful if you took it again, because we can't use last year's data. Please go to citycast.fm/survey to take the survey. It's only 7 minutes long, we know, because we timed it. That's citycast.fm/survey. And when you take the survey, you'll also be eligible to win a $250 Visa gift card and CityCast swag, that great CityCast swag. citycast.fm/survey.
Today on CityCast Philly. Philly, I will never forget Sunday, January 26th, 2025. I woke up not knowing that I'd ultimately be able to snag some last-minute tickets to the NFC Championship game between our Eagles and the Washington Commanders. I mean, truly a higher power. From Section 241, not only did I get to see champions, I saw a city that has love, passion, and bleeds green through and through. I started my morning eating Dietz & Watson's green hot dog buns in Lot N5. We danced to the beats of the Eagles drumline during a tailgate through confetti in Lot K. I sang "Blow the Whistle" at the top of my lungs. And that's why my voice is a little hoarse now. I high-fived everyone, even the security guards. And most importantly, I hugged my kids tight. And yes, I saw and heard so much taunting from Eagles fans. One guy told a Commanders fan his parents didn't love him. Like, oh my God, was that a life lesson for the kids? But the drive home was even sweeter. Was I stuck in gridlock traffic at Broad and Spring Garden? Yes. But it was worth seeing people hanging out their cars and dancing in the streets. There was both a beautiful chaos and at times a violent chaos, pole climbers and twerkers, and rightfully so. We're going to talk a lot more in the coming days about how the city and the team is preparing for a rematch and an epic showdown with the Kansas City Chiefs. I want you to stay connected with us. Siani's featuring some amazing articles and info in the Hey Philly newsletter. And shoot me a text at 215-259-8170. Tell me what you're up to for the Super Bowl, any watch parties you're going to, what you're cooking, and just how you plan on celebrating. I gotta get back to work, but for today's episode, we wanted to replay a conversation I had with a local realtor about Philly rents. Even though Philly's a fun city to be in right now, I mean, the rent is still pretty high. We saw a new report from Redfin saying that you need to be making almost $75K to be able to afford median rent in the city. And that rent is $1,865 per month. That makes the Philly metro area one of the least affordable in the country for renters. It's Tuesday, January 28th. I'm Trenae Nuri, and here's what Philly's talking about. Justin Forte, you're a realtor for KW Empower and Forte Living with a specialty in rentals. Thanks for being on CityCast Philly.
Hey, Trenae, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yes. You're also from Philly, and you've been working in the industry for about 10 years. So before we get into the ins and outs of renting in our city, convince me, generally speaking, why should I live in Philly as a renter?
Well, so Philly is a great place to rent. It's a major city. There's lots of public transportation, and Philly has a great variety of different rentals. So a lot of people are looking for apartments. Some people are looking for homes to rent. Some people are looking for condos or high rises to rent. So Philly has a good mix of rental properties.
When is the best time to look for a rental in Philly?
So I usually tell my clients to look about 2 months before they're ready to move. So if they're looking to move June 1st, I would say mid-April.
How has the rental market changed over the years, though?
So one big change in the rental market was COVID. Like post-COVID, rental market is totally different than the pre-COVID rental market. I know a lot of people haven't really rented in a long time, so they're shocked when they see these landlord requirements wanting high credit scores or high deposits because before COVID, landlords were a little more lax. So they were lower deposits. They didn't have the same credit score requirements. So I just want tenants and people looking for rentals to be prepared for these higher requirements, because COVID really changed a lot of things. It scared a lot of landlords because they had a harder time evicting problem tenants, and it scared a lot of tenants because they couldn't pay their bills because a lot of people weren't able to work. So COVID changed a lot of things. So just be prepared for the rental market now. If you haven't searched in a long time, it's a lot different.
I love to talk through, the questions people might ask or have when they're looking for a rental, an apartment or a house or a condo, like you just mentioned. Let's start at the beginning. When there are so many listings, are there certain websites that we should use to spot our next rental?
Websites like Zillow, Trulia, apartments.com, rent.com, they're all pretty good, good places to find rentals.
How do you spot a scam listing, though?
A scam listing, a good way to spot a scam listing is a listing that's asking for money up front. You never ask for a deposit up front. A listing where the pictures don't match the description.
Because it's so hard now, because I've seen some places where there's no real furniture. It's like digital furniture. So I'm like, wait a minute, is this too good to be true?
So I wouldn't call that a scam. So a lot of places have digital staging where they have the 3D furniture, but that can kind of misrepresent the size of rooms, because they may have a whole living room set in a room and then you get there and the living room is tiny. So it's always better to see these places in person.
Got you. Justin, I've lived in the Northeast, various places in North Philly, Alany, Germantown, and West Philly. I lived everywhere except for South Philly. So when it comes to choosing the right neighborhood, what's your best approach to deciding if a neighborhood is right for me?
All right. So when choosing a neighborhood, I always say, look for the amenities that you want when living in a property. So some people like to jog, some people like to ride bikes. So I would say look for areas that have a bike trail or a jogging trail. If you have kids, look for areas with pretty good schools, and really keep an eye on the amenities that you want living in this area. Even as far as like shopping, public transportation, that's really what you want to look for in an area. And also somewhere that's safe. So you don't want somewhere that's a lot of vacant houses or a lot of activity on the block. You want somewhere that's pretty calm and safe and where you can enjoy your property.
One thing that my mom always taught me about when I'm looking for a place to live is go visit that place during the day and go visit that place during the night. Would you agree?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So if you can, definitely drive by at different times of day. So check it out in the daytime, check it out at nighttime, check it out on the weekends. Sometimes, like if it's like the winter time, you may not see how it's going to look in the summertime. So that's a little tricky, but definitely drive through the block.
Do you have a favorite neighborhood in Philly?
Favorite neighborhood? I would have to say South Philly. I would have to say South Philly. That's where I was raised at. I still go down there, Center City. They call it Queens Village now, but yeah, South Philly, I guess, is my favorite part.
Okay. So I found a spot that looks wonderful online. I set up a property tour, and that's what you were talking about, that in-person tour, not just the virtual tour.
Yeah.
Are there any questions I should ask or things I need to look out for?
Right. So when you're on an in-person tour, good questions to ask the agent are, what are the requirements? So sometimes I had the requirements listed. Most times they won't. So when you get in the tour, take a look at the property and ask them, hey, what's the requirements for this property? They might have credit requirements, income requirements. Another thing I would say ask for is, what is the deposit? Most places want first, last, and security. Some places may have a move-in special where they only want the first month's rent and then part of the security. So definitely ask the requirements. What is the deposit? If you have any pets, definitely ask if pets are allowed. And going through the individual property, it's good to look around to see if you see anything that may be an issue for you. So something may be loose, like it might have a loose railing or a loose floorboard. You can ask like, hey, is this going to be fixed? Or hey, will this be fixed before move-in? If it's not clean to your liking, you can ask, hey, is this going to be clean before move-in, or is this going to be fixed before move-in? So definitely ask as many questions as you can at the showing.
Okay, those are some great tips. But what if I'm feeling overwhelmed by all of my options? Who can I ask to help me through this?
So that's where you hire somebody like me. You hire a realtor. So it's good having a realtor because you let your realtor know exactly what you're looking for, and your realtor is going to do the work for you. So I would recommend hiring a realtor just because you have a dedicated professional making sure that all your paperwork is correct and, making sure you're not being scammed. And there's usually no fee for tenants when you're hiring a realtor. A realtor is usually paid for by the landlord. Some may charge a fee for their realtor services, but I usually don't because I'm usually paid by the landlord.
Oh, that's good to know. More expert advice on how to find the perfect rental in Philly after the break.
Girl, you have got to try this Laneige lip mask. Trust me, my lips needed that love. Love these vanilla vibes from Kayali. That top note is just so smooth.
Smooth and stunning. That's what you get with this K18 hair mask.
Those brands everybody's talking about, they're at Sephora. Discover the hype with the hottest names in beauty, including Laneige, Kayali, K18, and Rare Beauty. Only at Sephora.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. The new year brings new health goals and wealth goals. Protecting your identity is an important step. LifeLock monitors millions of data points per second. If your identity is stolen, LifeLock's restoration specialist will fix it, guaranteed or your money back. Resolve to make identity health and wealth part of your New Year's goals with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
So, Justin, you just walked me through the homework I need to do to find a place. And now let's just say I found my dream rental. What are landlords looking for in a tenant? So how do I make sure my application stands out?
So most applications want a photo ID. They want maybe your last month or two of pay stubs, possibly a bank statement showing the full deposit needed to move in. So one way you can make your deposit stand out is have those things already ready. Have your pay stubs already downloaded as PDFs, no screenshots. That's really going to make your application stand out because I would say almost 80% of people send screenshots. So, and like I said, definitely the bank statement that shows the full deposit, because that's showing the landlord like, hey, I have the money right here in this account to move in as soon as possible. I will also say, make sure your credit is good also, because that's another thing that is going to make you stand out as an applicant. A lot of these applicants, they're going to have subpar credit. So if your credit is above 600 or above 620, you're immediately going to the top of the list. It's like a no-brainer. Like, hey, we got to pick this person because they did everything correctly the first time.
Let's say I submitted my PDFs. My credit score is good. I have the perfect application and now I'm approved. So what other costs should I expect up front? What's like standard?
So some costs to expect up front. Some places will want renter's insurance. So that's something to keep in mind. Renter's insurance can usually be between like $10 to $15 a month, or you could pay yearly. It's not really that expensive, but that's one cost that I think a lot of people overlook. And then there's the usual utilities. So depending on the property, you'll have electric, gas, possibly water if it's not included in the rent. And then on top of that, I would say furnishing the property. So unless you're bringing your furniture that you already have, like a lot of people, they want to buy new furniture, new table, new dining room set, new bedroom set. So those are the costs usually associated with renting a new property.
What should I keep an eye out for in my lease agreement? How do I make sure I understand what I'm signing?
So that's why it's another good reason to hire a realtor, because your realtor should go over your lease agreement with you step by step and section by section. But one of the main things I have my clients look out for are what is the tenant responsible for paying and what is the landlord responsible for paying? Because that's where you'll see what utilities are included in the property and what utilities are not. So like sometimes the landlord will pay the water and you'll see tenant responsible for only hot water, meaning they're only paying for the gas to heat the water. So another thing is like snow removal. You want to know who's responsible for removing snow when it snows, because somebody can slip and fall and now there's like a liability issue because the tenant was responsible for shoveling the snow and they never did. So that's one of the main things to look for in the lease. Another good thing to look for in the lease is the end date of the lease. So they're usually 12 months, but depending on the situation, it may be a shorter lease. Definitely keep an eye out for the end date And then the rules of the lease. So they may say no pets or no roommates moving in without permission, no painting without permission, no changes to the unit without permission. So yeah, a lease has a lot of moving parts, but you definitely want to keep an eye out on what's your responsibility as the tenant.
Now, I know a lot of people like to get creative. They like to bring color and their personality into their living space. So are those type of things like painting or adding some bookshelves that, you might have to put holes in the wall or change the paint colors? Is that sort of stuff kind of negotiable though?
It is. So most times you just need the landlord's permission, the landlord's written permission to change things. And then most likely they'll say, just change it back before you move. Or they may take a part of your security deposit to change it back themselves. But yeah, they're usually pretty flexible with letting you paint or letting you put up bookshelves. Now something like knocking down a wall or putting up new floors or anything like that, that may be a little excessive, but always check with your landlord and get landlord's written permission before any changes.
I like that. That's good. Written permission.
Yeah.
We've covered so much. Any other tips for finding great rentals in Philly?
I would say would be just to check out the city, drive around different neighborhoods and, see where you want to live at. A lot of neighborhoods in Philly are very walkable. So there are like neighborhood bistros, neighborhood restaurants in a lot of different parts of the area. So like Fishtown, Northern Liberties, parts of South Philly, a lot of areas are walkable. So definitely like get out there, check out Philly. Go on to different rental websites and check out, what the rentals are going for in those areas. But definitely do some research. Because there's a lot of nice properties out there, and I'm sure they'll make a lot of people happy. Because Philly is a city that just has so much to offer as far as like rentals and just life, nightlife, and it's just an awesome city.
All right, that was Justin Forte, realtor for KW Empower and Forte Living. Thank you so much for these tips and for joining me on CityCast Philly.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
For more tips on renting in Philly, follow Justin's work. Check out his Instagram and his website. We'll have those links in our show notes. That's all for today here on CityCast Philly. If you enjoyed this episode about finding a rental in Philly, tell a friend, rate the show, leave us a review, and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to sign up for our morning newsletter, Hey Philly, to learn more about what else Philly's talking about. We'll be back tomorrow morning with our weekly politics episode. Bye.